much, Anna. And just to echo Anna's welcome, it's great to see you all here today, whether it be afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world. But welcome, as Anna said, I'm Sarah, I'm the Scientific Training Coordinator at EBI, and it's a pleasure to do the first webinar of the year, giving you an overview of the resources we have at EMBL EBI. And also showing you a little bit about, what to think about when you're using resources, and think about what we do generally, and also a little about the kind of support if you're looking for help and support in using the resources, where to find that, and also about some of the training that you can access as well, to enable you to learn more about how to make the most of the resources. So to start with, I'm just going to have a very quick intro of who we are. Hopefully many of you know who we are at EMBL EBI, but obviously if you're new to us, new to our resources, it's nice to give you a bit of background. So we are essentially Europe's home for biological data. That's data services, research around data and training. And we are known as a trusted data provider for the life sciences. We are actually part of EMBL, which is the European Molecular Biology Laboratory, which many of you may also have heard of. And this is an intergovernmental research organisation. The building you can actually see on the background here is the building that Anna and I both work in. So obviously we're not there at the moment, we're working from home. But this is also the home of the Elixir Technical Hub, and Elixir is a research infrastructure which we are very involved with, which helps look after and organise biological data across Europe, or life science data across Europe. So just a quick background to EMBL. So EMBL is across 6 sites in Europe. Our main laboratory is in Heidelberg in Germany. Our site then is based at Hingston, near Cambridge in the UK. And again, this is a nice shot of the front of our building. We also have a site in Grenoble, France, and Hamburg, Germany, both focused on structural biology. In Rome, focused around mouse biology and neuroscience. And then our newest site is actually in Barcelona in Spain, working on tissue biology and disease modelling. In Cambridge, we're the only completely dry site. So we have no laboratories. We have lots and lots of computers, as you can imagine, and people working on computers. But we're a very multicultural, multinational organisation, even though we are based in Europe. In terms of how EMBL exists thanks to our member states, and these are the countries that enable us to actually undertake the work we do and enable us to be here today to actually tell you about the resources that we have available. And our home is actually on the Wellcome Genome campus, famous for being the site of the UK's efforts for the Human Genome Project. So we are based alongside the Wellcome Sanger Institute, as well as a number of other large or small companies that you may have heard of. So this is actually where we're based. So hopefully one day, when we're all back there, you may get an opportunity to come and visit us on site. So what do we actually do? So I want to take you briefly through what we do, and what you need to think about as well if you're a life scientist who's generating data. What can we do for you, both in terms of helping you with that data and also helping you make the most of other data that's out there. So as I said, really, biological data provision is the big thing that we are known for, and this is what we're here to talk about today, really. So our mission as an institute is fivefold. So firstly, it's around research. We have a number of research teams working at the EBI. Scientific services is obviously a major thing, and this is what we're talking about today, is those data resources, data services that we have available to you as scientists needing to access this data. We obviously spend a lot of time training. Again, we have all these wonderful resources. It's great to be able to train people in how to make the most of these resources, and also bioinformatics more generally. So lots of different types of bioinformatic analysis that we train people on. We also work very closely with industry. So we have a number of industry partners that we work with. And as I say, we also have this role in terms of coordinating bioinformatics in Europe. And this is where our work with the Elixir infrastructure comes in. In terms of the amount of data we have, well, it is big data and it's in big demand. Every day we're getting sort of 62 million requests to the website, 24 million unique IPs. Over the years, 30,000, we have a huge number of participants and a huge number of people who visit our site as well to access our online training, which I'll tell you a little more about a bit later. And currently have about 307 petabytes of storage available in our data center. But where does the data come from? So the data comes from, I'm sure many of you who are on the call today listening to this are scientists who are generating data. So the data comes from people like you. So, you know, it's running experiments in the laboratory, publishing those experiments, publishing your data, your findings, and as part of that publication process, depositing the data with us so that others can then access it. Now, obviously, for certain places, you have to actually deposit your data before you can publish. And, you know, this started with things like sequencing, but you'll find now that a lot more publishers also want your data to be out there and accessible before they will allow you to publish your papers or around the same time. So, you know, this is where the data is coming from. It's people who are generating the data and they're putting it out there for others to use. So this is our data cycle. This is really what happens. So obviously, you know, the scientists will generate the data, and this is people across the globe. We may be Europe's home of biological data, but our users and submitters come from across the globe. So the first thing, obviously, to submit that data to us, we will archive it. We'll obviously classify it and check, you know, what type of data have we got here? What other information do we need to put with that data, so that we can share it. And this is what we spend a lot of time doing, is obviously putting it out there so others can use it. With some of it, we will then analyze the data. So with some of our databases, you will find that we have taken data that's been submitted and we have analyzed it and put it out there for you to use. Or again, it's adding extra information, so that you can actually use it in the kind of things you're doing, and you can learn more from it. We also spend time developing tools. So, you know, developing different ways to allow you to look at that data and analyze the data. Of course, all the hope of this is that all of this data that's been generated and submitted is then going to be reused. And, you know, there's a big move now for people sort of almost starting with the data first. So rather than starting in the laboratory and working your way out, you know, it's let's start with the data first and build our hypothesis around the data. Or in areas where, you know, there's maybe smaller data sets. So if you're working in a rare disease, working in a new area where there isn't much data, you know, if there is data that's been submitted, you can take that, you can combine that with your own data set, so you've got more data to analyze as well. So this is the cycle we're working with, and really it always starts and ends with scientists in the lab. The scientists will be involved as we go through this process as well. All of our submission databases have biocurators who will work with you to enable you to submit that data in the best form so that really it is easily reusable by others. And the amount of data we have, as I showed you earlier, in terms of the amount of storage, there is a huge amount of data, and it continues to grow year on year in terms of the data that we're getting. And this just gives you a quick idea, really, of how much we've grown. You know, this was up to the middle of sort of 2018. And, you know, it's different types of data. It isn't just sequence data. A lot of people think that, you know, sequence data has gone up as we've done more sequencing. It's other data types as well. And you can see here then from the different resources, again, the amounts that we're seeing that data submission increase. In terms of the data resources we have available, this sort of arrow figure really shows you the breadth of data that we have available and that is available to you as researchers to access. So starting at this side here, so we've got our literature resources, especially Europe PMC. And Europe PMC, for example, you can access many of our data resources directly through the literature. But, you know, we have everything from genes and genomes through to proteins, structures, chemical biology. We have our atlases and archives, systems, databases, and then right through to drug discovery with our Open Targets platform. So a whole range of different resources that you can delve into and find, you know, either just the data or the information around the data. There's, you know, a whole host of different things that you can go into and explore. And they're written in a way that, you know, you can go into that and you can start exploring and seeing what information is present without needing to look at it computationally. Just go in and explore the database and see what information they have. You know, do they have the data that's relevant to what you're looking for. So not only do we have, a lot of different data types there, so say everything from genes through to chemical biology through to the proteins and protein families, we also have data on a whole range of different species as well. It's always a fun game, this, try and work out, can you work out which species we've got? But we've obviously got humans, lots of humans, but there's lots of other organisms as well, many of them being model organisms, but also economically important organisms as well. So some of the agricultural organisms we have. So a whole range of different species there that you will be able to find data on as well. The other thing to note is really that, again, the resources, though, they are all individual resources, there is integration between them. Obviously, if you're trying to tell a biological story, it's better to have a number of different biological data types connected together, potentially. So, we try and facilitate those interactions as much as we can. In the databases themselves, so the diagram here shows that actually there's so many internal interactions between the data resources. You have data moving between a number of the different resources and linking together, but also it's about how we try and link them together to aid your use of them as well. So as a user, you can more easily move from one database or one data resource to another, where there is linked data as well, rather than you have to go in and out of each one and trying to work your own way around. We do try and help you navigate the moves through the different resources we have. The other thing to note is that the data we hold isn't necessarily just held by us. So, we collaborate with organisations across the globe. And this collaboration is essential for many reasons. But we have this molecular data, which is, it's global, and we often share data with a number of them, so we will have the same data. What may vary is the way in which we show that data compared to others. So, for example, with some of the protein data bank, we've got a protein data bank in Europe, there's the protein data bank. The actual underlying data is the same, but what you may find is different ways of being able to interrogate the data, different ways of exploring it, analysing it between the different resources. And this is the same for some of the nucleotide sequence database, etc. Things like the expression atlas, where we've got the array data between different things. So as I say, a lot of the data is shared, but it's the way in which you look at that data might be slightly different. In terms of who uses us, really, it's everybody across the globe, and there is actually a live map that we have on the website, and it's quite interesting to sort of see this when we're actually back home training at the EBI building. We have this map up actually on one of our big screens. It's quite interesting to see how it's changed as you go through the day. So as you see the sun kind of moving across the map, you see the where the numbers of users are coming changing as well. So it's interesting to always have a look at that as we're there. We always like to highlight things that have happened. So, this is a webinar we run every year, but we like to highlight new things. The really big new resource that came out in 2020 was our COVID-19 data portal. You may be aware of this, you may not be, but again, if you're working in the area, then the COVID data portal is definitely a place you should go visit. So the COVID data portal itself was actually launched in April 2020, and it was actually launched by the President of the European Commission. And really it was launched to bring together relevant data sets for sharing and analysis to try and accelerate coronavirus research. And it really does enable researchers to upload, to access, to analyse COVID-19 related reference data and specialist data sets. And this is not just the COVID data, it's also there is also patient data there as well, so patients who've actually had COVID. So you've got a range of things there. This just really shows you a quick snapshot of how the portal sort of works. So obviously we've got a whole range of universities, centres, hospitals, public health labs, etc., that are all generating this data. The data that's coming through is all sorts of, genomic sequence, protein structure, protein sequence. We've got viral data coming through what are known as the SARS-CoV-2 data hubs and human data. Now, this is all feeding into the resources that we have. So a number of these resources you would have seen in my arrow slide earlier on. But the whole point is then that that's all being pulled as well through to the COVID portal. So you've only got one place to that you have to go to try and find all of this data. So we have a lot of data which is open research. So anything that's in the pink level here is open. So the blue stuff is more access controlled, but again, it's still available for researchers to use, but there's a little more access to it, a little more control in terms of who has access. But there is a huge amount of information already in there. So this really just shows you, the first genome submitted back in January. And if you look towards the 6-month anniversary in October, the 6-month anniversary of the portal, the amount of data being submitted and the growth of data in the services really did increase. And this just gives you a snapshot of all the different things that you can find. Also, a number of countries have their own national versions of this as well. So they have their own national COVID data portals. But say if you're interested in COVID data, if you want to look in more detail, then obviously you can go and investigate the website for yourself through the website address I gave you. And I would say that obviously this is not something we're doing on our own. This is a huge effort, and it really is bringing in so many different people from across Europe and international initiatives as well. And this all really comes together to be able to provide this portal to really help accelerate COVID research. So how do you get to the resources? I've shown you a little bit about, what we do, how we get where the data is coming from, the range of resources and the range of species. Now I really need to show you how you can find your way around. So, where do you start? How do you get to the resource you want to get to? So the quickest way is to go to our homepage, obviously. So this is our homepage, which is ebi.ac.uk. And at the top of the homepage, and this is actually a snapshot from today, you will see we have a search box. So the first thing you can do is, if you have a particular gene or protein of interest or a chemical of interest, you can type it into the box here and hit search. And it will give you a search result showing you where you can find information for that particular gene or protein. If it's one of a particular set of genes or proteins, you may find that there is a gene or protein summary written about it, which will give you, again, kind of a quick overview of that particular gene. So, for example, if you type something quite well known like BRCA1, for example, you type that in, it will give you a nice overview of BRCA1 and will link you quite nicely through to all of the different resources. If there's not one of those, what you will get is a search list, which will give you links through to all of the different data types that you can find, the different resources that will give you information around that particular gene or protein. So if you're not sure, where to look, not sure which resource to go for, which service, as I say, you have a certain set of genes, proteins, type there first. The other way you can look is to come into our services tab. So the services tab is at the top. And this is what you'll find on the services tab. So here you will find a list of all of the tools and data resources that we have available. And again, if you know the particular one you're looking for, you can search for it directly in this search box here, or you can browse by type. So if you know, for example, that you want to look for data resources that relate to proteins, then you can click on the protein button here and it will give you a list of all of the protein related data resources that we have. And then you'll be able to search through UniProt, PDB, whichever ones come up under that particular set for you. The other thing we provide is programmatic access. So, if you want to access things programmatically, there are ways of doing this. We have APIs across a whole range of the EBI resources. And this is just one example. If you go in to UniProt or the proteins, then you'll find the protein API. Ensemble, again, you've got the list here, APIs and software. So you can go in, find that and investigate those in more detail. If you want to find out more about the range of APIs that EBI has available, we also have a webinar series within Train Online, which we ran a couple of years ago, but it has been updated, and it's updated on a regular basis as the APIs change or as new APIs become available. And this will take you through a number of different APIs that are there. It gives you a little bit. The first webinar just tells you a little bit about what an API is and what it does if you're not sure. But also there's a whole host of different webinars then relating to the specific APIs for the specific resources. The other thing, of course, to really show you is also around data submission. So, as I said, obviously we're telling you how to find the resources today, how to access them, how to explore. But also we spend a lot of time talking to people about submitting the data as well, because without people submitting data, obviously we don't have things to work on. Why submit it? Well, open science, we say, really does allow us to make the most of the data. Often you as a researcher may be asking very specific questions of that data. Once you've answered those questions from your data, okay, maybe you don't need to explore it anymore at that point. But just because it's been generated for you to ask those questions, it doesn't mean that it isn't useful for other people's questions as well. So it's putting it out there so that other people get an opportunity to explore that, ask their questions of it. And, again, it may be different things than you were looking for, but, adding it to their data, being able to interrogate it is of importance to them. Also, it helps you because, it gets your data out there and gets it used by others as well. So you can get more recognition as a researcher for that data. If you're interested in submitting data, or you need to submit data, then there are a number of repositories which will accept data, and this gives you the list of repositories here. So we actually have a data submission wizard which will guide you through. So when you click on the page, it will actually tell you, it'll actually ask you about the data that you have, ask about the nature of it, etc. So it can guide you to the correct data repository. And if you need to find that, if we go back to the front page again, you'll see that there is a little link here which takes you to deposit data. So the other link here, actually the find tools and resources, will take you to the services tab I showed you a moment ago. And this is where you will find that list of data services I just showed you, along with the data submission wizard. The other thing is, if you're interested in submitting data to a particular repository, do get in touch with them and check exactly what they need to be able to submit the data. And you will get to speak to the curators who look after those, who will then actually be able to talk you through or help guide you through the process. One thing to remember, if you're using databases and tools, please remember to cite that you've used them. Also remember to record when you access the resource or tool, because they do change. They are updated on a regular basis. And if you're not sure how to cite the particular tool and resource you're using, then again, have a look on their website. So for example, this is the example from Uniprot, where they will tell you exactly how they would like you to cite their use in a piece of work that you're doing. So final thing I really want to tell you about again is then training and support. So as I said, we've got all of these wonderful resources out there, a whole range of different data types that are covered, a range of different things that you can explore. But if you're unsure where to start, then, we have training, we have help desks, so we can actually help support you through how to make the most and how to use these resources to help answer the questions that you have. So, of course, I'm going to talk training first. I work in the training team. I look after the training programme. And, we run a whole host of different types of courses. Now, obviously, this slide kind of shows you what would happen, I guess, under normal times. But, training is still continuing. So we're not able to do the face-to-face training at EBI as we normally would. But we continue to run courses via virtual means. So we have a whole range of courses open for 2021, and there'll be more opening as we go through the year. And these are delivered virtually, so using Zoom, a little bit similar to this, but a Zoom meeting instead, and that's how we are teaching at the moment. So obviously we're not able to visit host sites either at the moment, unfortunately. But Train Online I'll show you in a moment, and we still continue to do some train the trainer work as well. So Train Online is, again, a fantastic resource that you can access whenever you want to. So this is on-demand training, along with our whole library of recorded webinars as well. These tutorials are all freely accessible. They've been developed by EBI experts. They're also sometimes developed with external experts as well. And they cover everything from EBI resources. So we have coverage across, I think most, if not all, of our EBI resources currently. But we also cover a number of concepts in bioinformatics as well. So for example, this one we've got here is bioinformatics for the terrified. So if you want to know a bit more about bioinformatics generally, this is a nice place for you to start. But we also cover things such as, concepts around network analysis or proteomics analysis generally. And the courses are written so that you can work through them at your own pace. You don't have to start at the beginning. You can just drop into a particular part of the course if you want to. And there are exercises, which again will sort of show you how to work your way through the resource to answer questions, as well as quizzes, demos, and some short videos. Webinars then, obviously you're attending this webinar today, so you know webinars exist. We run a whole series of these. So we have our, what we call our Wednesday webinar series, which is what this is. So it's a fortnightly series, all completely free to again register and watch. And as we say, we record them and post them online afterwards. But we also then run special series as well. So these are a group of related webinars. And what we then do is turn those into a course in Train Online as well, so that we can add additional material to them. Now, obviously with these two, you can see, this one is listed as 2018. It's not static. So yes, it ran live at this time, but we're still adding things to this. We're adding more information to the course. We're adding in new webinars, and we're updating the webinars as we go through as well. And I will say to watch out for a new series, which will be coming later in the year as well. So we hope to launch our next series in Easter, or around Easter time this year as well, which is a bit of a kind of how-to guide to things as well. So please do come back and have a look at that later. Help and support more generally from the resources as well. Every one of the resources will have a help and contact place that you can go to. And these help desks are manned by real people as well. So when you send a message to it, you will get a response back from a person who does work on that resource, who really can help you. So I'm going to give you the Uniprot example again here. So this is the Uniprot front page, and you'll see at the top here, there is a help and contact button. I'll blow it up so you can see it. So you've got help and contact. So contact, literally will just, you can say hello to the team. Help will then take you through to this more detailed page. So this will give you a bit more about, all sort of the background to Uniprot, including how to cite us, for example. Gives you a little bit more again around getting started with using it. And there's a few manuals, a few tutorials. Some of these will be things that you will see through webinar series in Train Online, but also then, give you some other information, etc. But so the contact then, if you have a very specific question to ask, then the contact form is the way to get through to them and ask that specific question. And I will say that, the support, the resource teams like to hear from their users. They really do. Because at the end of the day, these resources are there for scientists to use. So they want to know how scientists want to be using them. If there's particular ways that they want to be able to interrogate that data, we will look to work to develop that resource in that way as well. So, if you've been at EBI training, if you have been a user of some of these things for a little while, you may well get a request at some point to actually be involved in some user feedback, so we can find out how you are using it, how you'd like to use it, and maybe where there are issues that we need to have a look at. So keep talking to us, basically. So that's all I wanted to go through today. So I've given you a quick snapshot of who we are, how the data gets to us, how you can start to interrogate the EBI, the range of data resources and the range of data that we have available in terms of data types, data species, or the species that we have data for, giving you a snapshot of the COVID-19 portal, and hopefully also giving you some guidance on where you can find out more should you want to learn more about how to use the resources, both from the training point of view and from the support from the help desks. So I want to say thank you very much for listening today. There's some more help and support generally on this particular slide. What couple of things I wanted to point out is we obviously have some webinars upcoming. So there's a whole range of different webinars here for you to be able to come along to. So the next one is actually from our Europe PMC colleagues. So, telling you a little bit more about how to actually use it and how to look for things. And even in the upcoming ones, we've got everything, as you see here, from RNA Central through to open targets and submitting data to GWAS catalogue. So please do sign up. Final thing is, if you want to see the full list, obviously we've got the webinar here, the URL here, and also all of our recorded webinars from this year and past years are available under this particular link as well.